Imagine that there is a young, ambitious girl who gets pregnant as the result of rape. 15 months later, she struggles to raise her 6-month-old son and hold a steady job. She realizes that her dreams have all but come to an end because she has to provide for her child. So one night she takes her son to a doctor and pays a moderate fee of $1,100. He then takes the boy into a dark room and severs his limbs from his body with a pair of forceps. The doctor then crushes the boy's skull and disposes of the corpse. Now, if this happened in real life, we condemn both the mother and the doctor. They'd be serving long life sentences in prison. Well, it does happen in real life, and we don't condemn it. In fact, we praise it, and we say that it empowers women, and that it's a right. By now, I think you should know I'm talking about abortion. But many will push back and say abortion is justifiable, while holding to the idea that the mother has no excuse because she took a life. So if I can show you that there's no logical difference between that baby and an unborn child, then there's no justification for abortion. So let's look at science. A human's genetic makeup is determined by the 23 pairs of chromosomes. 23 from its mother, 23 from its father. This means that all the information that makes you, you, is available at conception. It just hasn't developed yet. Based solely on an informational standpoint, there is no difference between that newly conceived cell and a full-grown adult male. But isn't a fetus just a clump of cells? Just a blob of tissue in a woman's body? Well, no. According to an article by Kate Marple, which was medically reviewed by a recognized embryologist, at only 5 weeks, which is usually when results will show up on a pregnancy test, the baby has developed a heartbeat. At 6 weeks, the brain has started to develop and won't finish the development until it reaches adulthood. Simply put, an embryo is not just a clump of cells. What about logic? Because of this well-known information, many abortion advocates try to define life by the level of development. They will say that because the baby is not yet fully developed, killing it is different from killing a toddler. Well, by that logic, development determines value. Therefore, because a 12-year-old is not as developed as a 25-year-old, it's not as valuable. So murdering a 12-year-old should carry less charges than murdering an adult. But that is not what we see in our legal system. In fact, child murder is one of the few capital offenses. So if we decide that it is more reprehensible to murder those that are less developed, why do abortion advocates try to justify their stance by the level of development argument? Shouldn't we defend the less development? Shouldn't we defend the oppressed, the innocent? Now let's look at Scripture. I'd like to address my fellow Christians. If you claim to follow Jesus and believe the words of Scripture but support abortion, I have a question for you. Why? How can you when Scripture puts so much emphasis on the value of human life? Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations." Psalms 139:13-6 says, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are you, O Lord. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth, you saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." God has plans for the unborn. God sees a child in the womb, and he makes plans for it, even before it exists. As I conclude this speech, I want those to hear this to remember. There is no justification through science, logic, or Scripture for the ending of an unborn life.